Hi, this is Dr. Saldivar. Today we're looking at Chapter 8 of Feldman's text, Essentials of Understanding Psychology. Chapter 8 looks at the topics of motivation and emotion. In his text, Feldman defines motivation as referring to factors that direct and animate behavior. So, in plain English, motivation is the stuff that drives us, that compels us as humans to do things, to engage in different kinds of behaviors. Although we often think of motivation as something that we have or don't have, as a binary kind of construct, meaning uh, I'm motivated today, I'm going to do a lot of work and get my studying done for my test next Thursday or whatever. Or you know what, I had a long night last night, I worked late and I had to come home and do some stuff with my family and this and that, and I'm just not feeling motivated to do any schoolwork. We often frame motivation as we have it or we don't, this binary approach. But really, motivation is much more complex in its sources, what it looks like, how it manifests itself. Let's look at some of these concepts that Feldman talks about in the text. The sources of motivation can be biological or physical, they can be cognitive or emotional, or they can be social, that is, coming from society, from culture. Some biological examples of motivation: hunger. None of us are sitting around, uh, for the most part, telling ourselves, "Oh, I've got to eat. I've got to eat." Usually, it's hunger, or the hunger drive, as it's known scientifically, that prompts us to try and find and consume food so we can maintain energy level, have the ability to live life and thus survive. Thirst, another common motivation, right? The drive to remain hydrated, because we know we can feel unwell to even terrible if we don't drink enough water, have enough fluids, or even feel quite sick, quite unwell if we're not drinking enough fluids. So thirst is another biological motivation. Our sex drive, the desire to engage in sexual activity, obviously central to most human beings. And then finally, related to sex drive, maternal or paternal instincts, the drive to reproduce, the drive to parent children and care for offspring. Not everyone necessarily has each of these or all of these motivations to the same degree, but they are all rooted in who we are biologically as living creatures. Some cognitive and emotional examples of motivation: curiosity, the drive to learn, explore, understand new things; achievement, trying to find personal satisfaction by accomplishing goals that we have set for ourselves; altruism, when we have a desire to help other people without necessarily expecting anything in return, or getting anything out of the situation, or whatever the behavior is. We just do it because we feel good helping someone who may need help. And then finally, fear of failure. This is obviously a common motivation. It's an interesting one in that it's not really driving us to do something, it's driving us to avoid something, to avoid failure. We want to do a good job on our class presentation so we're not embarrassed in front of our classmates. We want to do a good job at the job interview so we can get the job and hopefully be able to have a good income after college. Fear of failure, another example of a cognitively or emotionally based motivation humans can confront. And finally, some social examples of motivation. So here again, by social we mean the culture, the world around us. Um, Aspects of our culture, of society, can include our families, our hometowns, the country we live in, the religious group we're part of, the religious belief system we follow, our race or ethnicity. So society can be defined many different ways, but nonetheless, society can still be a source of motivation. There's an idea called social relatedness. Most humans have this innate desire, this instinctual desire to feel connected to others. Humans are primates, just like chimpanzees, just like gorillas. I'm not saying humans are comparable to chimpanzees or gorillas, but we are biologically in the same family of mammals, primates. And all primates are social creatures. All primates tend to feel uneasy or uncomfortable or even scared if they're alone too much, if they're alone too often, if they get too lonely. And having a sense of connection to other living things, especially other humans, is something that humans and all primates have not because we're choosing that motivation, but because evolution has built that motivation into us. Cultural traditions are another example of social motivation. The need to behave according to certain societal norms, to act in the way that our family might expect us to, or that the religious belief system that we're part of expects us to act a certain way. Collective identity, again, related to social relatedness. Humans, again, because of this primate need for being part of a group, we tend to feel pride, loyalty, happiness when we feel like we're able to contribute in some way to the success or to positive stuff associated with the group that we're part of. And then finally, incentive systems may come from society. Society may reward us in certain ways that we find desirable if we do stuff. If I do my job as a professor well, hopefully my boss will be happy with me. I will not get fired. I will continue to have an income from the university. That's one example of an incentive system. It's not the only one I have. And by the way, all these motivations, few people have one motivation. Most humans have multiple motivations, whether it's social, cognitive, emotional, biological. Most of us, that's why it's so complex. Most of us are going to have a set, many, many multiple motivations that affect us. In a related sense, emotions are feelings that have both physical, and cognitive or mental components that influence our behavior. Emotions help us prepare for action, determine what future behaviors we may engage in, and are part of our regular interactions with other people. So our emotions are always present. We may try to suppress them. We may sometimes be in denial about certain emotions that we feel, but that doesn't mean that those emotions are not there. We may just not be engaging with them. Emotions typically have three main components. There's a subjective experience component. That's the personal way, the individual way in which you may experience a particular emotion. That is to say, something may happen that may cause one person to feel scared, another to feel angry, another to feel happy. That's a pretty wide range, but it is possible for the same event or similar event happening to different people to result in very different emotional outcomes. There's a physiological response to that's a component of emotion. Um, a lot of changes, especially if we have a very powerful emotion that's related to fear, anger. We may have physiological changes such as an increase in our heart rate, increase in certain hormones, especially things like adrenaline, because again, millions of years of evolution have wired into us. If we feel danger, if we feel like we may be threatened, we may need to take physical action, running away or fighting or whatever. In order to do that, the body has to prepare itself by doing things like dumping a lot of adrenaline into our systems, by increasing our heart rate. That allows us to get more oxygen into our lungs. More oxygen can then be pushed to our cells. Our cells have more energy because they have to burn oxygen to function, right? Our cells have more energy available to help with the running or the fighting or whatever the physical response is to, let's say, danger in this example. And then finally, behavioral or expressive response is part of an emotional, is a component of emotion. That is basically the way in which our emotional reactions, emotional state are demonstrated to others. Things like facial expressions, body language, or other communication, including spoken or oral communication. Let's review the major ideas from this chapter. So again, motivation refers to factors that direct and animate behavior, as Feldman defines it. Sources of motivation can be biological, cognitive, and emotional, or social. Emotions are feelings with physiological and cognitive components that influence behavior. And finally, emotions are typically composed of subjective experience, physiological response, and behavioral or expressive response, as we've discussed. This concludes the presentation for this chapter. Hope you found it a helpful overview as you get ready to go in and read the chapter. I'll see you in class. Good luck.